Welcome all to another session of Management Principles and Applications, and today we'll be doing Balanced Scorecard and EVA. What is Balanced Scorecard? So, a Balanced Scorecard refers to BSC as it is known as. It is a framework to implement and manage strategy. So we have done how an organization go with the strategies. So what is Balanced Scorecard going to do? It is going to link a vision to strategic objectives. So from vision to strategies, then measuring the targets and taking initiatives to fulfill those strategies is what a balanced scorecard is all about. It balances financial measures with performance measures and objectives related to all other parts of the organization. It is business performance management tool. It is going to measure the performance of business, and it is going to be utilized by the management as a tool to measure the performance. Now, it was originally published by Dr. Robert Kaplan and Dr. David Norton as a paper in 1992 and then formally as a book in 1996. Both the paper and the book led to its widespread success. It is interesting to note that although Kaplan and Norton published the first paper, they were enormously referenced in a work by Art Shinderman, who is believed to be the balanced scorecard creator. Now, the basics. Let us come to the basics of balanced scorecard. So, the major difference that Kaplan and Norton introduced into this methodology is the balance. Now, there are four perspectives which are balanced by the balanced scorecard. So, the problem back then and still today is that most companies focus on financial measures. Now, for example, revenue growth and profitability. So, by looking at an organization across four perspectives, a causal relationship between investment and financial outcome can be defined, measured, and as well as can be managed. Now, the balanced scorecard is not just a scorecard, it is a methodology. It starts by identifying a small number of financial and non-financial objectives related to strategic priorities. It then looks at measures, setting targets for the measures, and finally strategic projects, often called as initiatives. It is in this latter stage where the approach differs from other strategic methodologies. It forces an organization to think about how objectives can be measured and only then identifies projects to drive those objectives. Now, this avoids creating costly projects that have no impact on the strategy. The balance is brought about by a focus on financial and non-financial objectives that are attributed to four areas of the organization. Now, what are these perspectives? Financial perspective, customer perspective, internal processes, and organizational capacity. Now, these would be four tenets which are balanced by the balanced scorecard and are measured or are actually assessed for business performance. Now, the four perspectives, as I told you, the first one is financial perspective. So, the high-level financial objectives and financial measures of the organization that help answer the question, how do we look to our shareholders? Now, financial objectives are usually the easiest to define and measure. However, creating a financial objective like, for example, improve profit, now rarely provides a clue as to how to achieve this objective. How am I going to improve my profits? So by linking objectives from the lower levels in the model, we begin to see exactly where to define projects and make investments. Now we come to customer perspective. So objectives and measures that are directly related to organizations' customers, focusing on customer satisfaction. Now to answer the question, how do our customers see us? It is always important to take a step outside and view your company or organization from your customer's viewpoint. Now you need to understand what they want from you, not necessarily what you can do for them. Now the next perspective is internal processes, objectives and measures that determine how well the business is running and whether the products or services conform to what is required by the customers. That is, what should we be best at? Some of the biggest cost items can be reduced by streamlining internal processes. This is also the best area to focus on new and creative ideas. The last perspective is organizational capacity. Now, objectives and measures concerning how well our people perform, their skills, training, company culture, leadership, and knowledge base. Now, this area also includes infrastructure and technology. Organizational capacity tends to be the area where most investment takes place. It answers the question, how can we improve and create value? Now, the real value of the perspective approach is that it provides a framework to describe a business strategy. So, business strategy can be defined in four perspectives: financial perspective, customer perspective, internal processes, and organizational capacity. Now, it focuses on objectives and measures that both inform us about progress and allow us to influence activities to achieve the strategy. So from vision to strategy through four perspectives is actually balanced scorecard. Now this is how the strategy map looks like. So in the strategy map, we are going to see the four perspectives: financial, customer, internal processes, and organizational capacity. Now in financial, we are going to see how we can increase our revenue, how we can increase the profitability, and how we can reduce sales overhead costs. From the customer's perspective, we'll see that how we can improve customer satisfaction, we can improve overall sales, and improve the brand image. In the internal processes, we'll see that how we can improve the marketing process, maybe improve knowledge distribution, and improve external communications. Organizational capacity, it would tell us how to improve knowledge base, improve staff skills, and reduce energy consumption. So this is a good example of a strategy map. Now the four scorecard perspectives are in specific order and contain strategic objectives that contribute to a vision and as well as a mission. Now the objectives are linked in a very casual way from the bottom to the top. So the strategy map, it is going to provide you a very powerful tool which is going to allow the managers to discuss about the casual impact of investment at the bottom to improved financial results at the top. Now, what is interesting here is that the diagram has been created by a software tool. Now, software is not required, but it helps to make the things better. Now, furthermore, good software tools will allow a user to drill down to the underlying data should the need arise to question a specific activity, objective, or performance made. Now, under strategy map, we can see the strategic objectives. What are those? Strategic objectives turn a passive strategy into an active one. An active strategy is the one that motivates and drives people to their best. It is not an additional or separate activity bolted on the side or something to be done when time allows. In his book, The Institute Way, Howard Rollm describes the balanced scorecard system and sums up strategic objectives by saying strategic objectives are considered the DNA of the BSC system. So strategic objectives are so very important, and it is the strategic planning process. The way to bring a strategy alive is to create meaningful strategic objectives. So in the strategy map, strategic objectives are a must. And then there are key performance indicators, KPIs. Once created, input to a scorecard comes in the form of performance measures, often referred to as KPIs. A KPI provides information and organization required to determine whether it is performing well or not. Now, unfortunately, in some organizations, KPIs have often become indistinguishable from operational measures. Organizations frequently take the view that everything should be measured and reported on. A KPI is a key performance indicator, and it is one of the small number of measures that are designed to reduce the complex nature of organizational performance and turn it into something that can be understood easily and acted upon very quickly. Now, what are the key benefits of balanced scorecard? The first one is improved organizational alignment and communication. Now, the approach necessitates that the method is adopted by the whole organization from department to division to the enterprise. It becomes a single standard for all. Now, the immediate benefit is common language, a common set of strategic objectives, and common metric structure. This does not mean that the balanced scorecard must be implemented across an entire organization immediately. In fact, the best approach is to start small, like generally at the executive level, and then roll out over a defined period. So it is going to improve the organizational alignment. Then the next is better strategic planning. Now, the creation of strategy map forces an executive team to think hard about the relationship between a strategic objective, initiatives, and the metrics required to both help with the success and determine actual success. Now, the strategy map therefore becomes the cornerstone of strategic planning. It has the added benefit of being the communication medium of the strategy and the way it will be measured to the rest of the organization. The next is improved performance reporting. Now, the mind is focused on those things that need to be reported to the management and executive teams. There will be other things that need to be measured and reported upon, but the simple fact that the management and executive teams are clear on what they need will cause the whole organization to think about what is required and more important. One of the obvious benefits of this activity is that unnecessary reporting will be eliminated. The balanced scorecard becomes an extremely powerful tool to ensure organizational alignment, to improve communications, achieve much stronger strategic planning, and ultimately lead to a better performing organization that is in tune with its business strategy. Now, this is how an integrated balanced scorecard looks like. So there in an organization, there is a vision, then there is a mission, then there are strategic priorities like content partnerships, customer services, brand awareness, can be any companies or institution strategic priority, and then the strategic results. What are the results you're getting? Then these are the 4 perspectives. Then there are measures. What are the targets? And then what are the projects or your personal notes on that? So we can, for example, take finance, like increased revenue, increasing profitability, and decreasing operating costs can be the strategic financial objectives. Then what are the measures? Net profit, operating costs, and revenue in target markets are we going to measure. The targets are, net profit 5% increase per year, then operating costs 3% decrease, and then revenue in target markets is 12% per year. So implement new financial accounting systems, simplify billing operations. So this is how a balanced scorecard looks like, and it gives you a perspective, an overall perspective from vision to the strategies. Now we come to earned value analysis. So in project management, it presents many tools and techniques for the management of successful projects, as we have seen. One of the most regarded of these tools would be earned value analysis, that is EVA. Unfortunately, it seems as if this phrase earned value management is met and greeted with dread instead of thought of usefulness. Why? Because earned value. So, what is the management's earned value? Now, maybe the less than full embrace can be attributed to one scenario. Let us see that. The project scenario is you, the project manager, have a client that contracted with your firm to produce 5 gizmos. Okay. Now you created a plan to produce the 5 gizmos during that year. In fact, the plan calls for 100 hours to be spent for each assembled gizmo. Now the year has come and gone and the 5 gizmos were produced. At the year end, you check with the finance department to inquire about the total number of hours spent to produce those 5 gizmos. Finance informs you that 400 total hours were expected to create 5 gizmos. At first blush, you, the project manager, filled with a sense of accomplishment. In fact, dazzling accomplishment as you finish the plan of 500 hours production of gizmos into 400 hours. Now saving the company 100 hours that may be applied to other projects in need. Thus, a sense of less than great feeling is recognized from deep within. What's wrong with the picture? Maybe it is the fear of unknown that gives earned value a less than stellar view by many in the field. Now, which is power, can help hold project fear at bay. Therefore, this paper sets out with the fundamental expectations of providing the reader with the basic information about earned value that will allow the reader to embrace the positive EVMS without cringing in the fear. What is earned value analysis? Earned value analysis is a method that allows the project manager to measure the amount of work actually performed on a project beyond the basic review of cost and schedule reports. EVA provides a method that permits the project to be measured by progress achieved. The project manager is then able, using the progress measure, to forecast a project's total cost and date of completion based on trend analysis or application of project's burn rate. Now, this method relies on a key measure known as project's earned value. Oftentimes, the term earned value is defined as budgeted cost of work performed, or BCWP. Now, this budgeted cost of work performed measures enables the project manager to compute performance indices or burn rates from cost and schedule performance, which provides information on how well the project is doing or performing relative to its original plans. Now, these indices, when applied to future work, allow for the project manager to forecast how the project will do in the future, assuming the burn rates will not fluctuate, which oftentimes is a very large assumption as. Now, earned value analysis requirements. What are the requirements for the earned value analysis? The first is the work breakdown structure. Now, what is work breakdown structure? It is a deliverable oriented hierarchical decomposition of the work to be executed by the project team to accomplish the project objective and create the required deliverables. So it is basically breaking the work into smaller activities. It organizes and defines the total scope of the project. Each descending level represents increasingly detailed definition of project work. Now, there is a saying in the project management that if it's not included in the work breakdown structure, it's not included in the project. So, work breakdown structure is a direct representation of work scope in the project, documenting the hierarchy and description of the tasks to be performed and relationship to the product deliverables. Now, the WBS breaks down all authorized work scope into appropriate elements for planning, budgeting, scheduling, cost accounting, work authorization, measuring process, and management control. So because the work is broken down, it will help in planning, in budgeting, in scheduling in those activities, then costing of those activities, authorization of those particular activities, which would help in measuring the progress and would facilitate the control. Now, the WBS must be extended to the level necessary for the management action and control based on the complexity of the work. Now, EVM foundational concepts. In earned value management, unlike in traditional management, there are three data sources. The first is budget value of the work scheduled, that is the planned value. Then actual value of the work completed, and then the earned value of physical work completed. So if the actual value is of the work completed is more than the budget, you have earned the value. Earned value takes these three data sources and is able to compare the budgeted value of work schedule with the earned value and the actual value of the work. Now, planned value, the first one, the budgeted value. It describes how far along project work is supposed to be at any given point in the project schedule and cost estimate. Cost and schedule baseline refers to the physical work scheduled and the approved budget to accomplish the scheduled work. Together, they result in an important value, that is planned value. Planned value can be looked at in two ways, cumulative and current. What is cumulative planned value? It is the sum of approved budgets for activities scheduled to be performed to the date. Current planned value is approved budget for activities scheduled to be performed during a given period. Now, this period could represent days, weeks, or month, whereas cumulative is the sum of all the approved budget for activities. Now, planned value also is known as budget cost of work schedule, BCWS. It defines the scope. What is that? What you are tasked to do. Assign scope, break down scope into manageable parts, that is work-based breakdown structure. Then schedule scope, the time phase logic driven with the critical path. Budget scope, develop cost for all approved scopes. And then baseline, the snapshot in time, what performance measure will be based upon. Then actual costs. It is also known as actual expenditure, the cost incurred for executing work on a project. Now this figure tells you what you've spent and is with planned value, can be looked at in terms of cumulative and current. Cumulative actual cost is the sum of actual costs for all the activities performed till date, and current actual cost is the actual cost of activities performed during a given period. Now this period could represent days, weeks, months, etc., just like the projected costs. Now AC is also called actual cost of work performed, ACWP. Earned value. Now we have seen the projected values and the actual values. So comparing those two, we will get the earned value. To report the accomplishments of the project, you must apply earned value to the figures and calculations to the projects. Earned value is quantification of the worth of the work done to the date. So in other words, the earned value tells you what the project has accomplished. As with the projected values and actual costs, EV can be presented in cumulative and current fashions. Cumulative is earned value is the sum of budget for the activities accomplished till date, whereas current earned value is the sum of the budget for the activities accomplished in a given period. Now, earned value is also called budget cost of work performance, that is BCWP. Now, this planned value is determined by the cost and schedule baseline. Actual cost is determined by the actual cost incurred on the project, and earned value tells you the project, what the project has accomplished. Now, cost performance index. What is cost performance index? The earned value minus the actual cost. So the CPI is equal to the earned value divided by the actual costs. A CPI equals to or greater than 1 indicates a favorable condition, and a value of less than 1 indicates an unfavorable condition. Now, for example, should your calculation show a CPI of $0.9, which translates to the project recognizing 90 cents for every $1 spent to date on your project. Assuming your CPI efficiency remains the same throughout the remainder of the work, your project will be over budget. Now, potential causes of favorable cost performance. How can you have favorable cost performance? Because maybe the efficiencies are being realized, maybe the work is less complex than anticipated, there are fewer revisions and reworks, there are favorable market fluctuations in the cost of labor material, and then there are the overhead rates have decreased. What are the potential causes of unfavorable cost performance? The work is more complex than anticipated. The design reviews comments extensively. There is rework. There are unclear requirements. The scope creeps. The unfavorable market fluctuations are there in the cost labor market or a material market, and overhead rates have increased. Now, effective earned value management. Now, here are the 5 basic ground rules for effective earned value management. They are: first, organize the project team and the scope of work using a work breakdown structure. Each task should have single WBS number and the organizational code. So, work breakdown structure is very important. Then, schedule the tasks in a logical manner so that lower level schedule elements support subsequent elements and the top level milestones. Then the third, allocate the total budget resources to time phased control accounts. Then establish objective means for measuring work accomplishment. Budget should be earned in the same way that it was planned. Then control the project by analyzing cost and performance variances, assessing final cost, developing corrective actions, and controlling changes to the integrated baseline. If you'll do all these 5 steps, you will lead to the effective earned value management. With this, we are done with the EVA and balance scorecard. Thank you for listening.